Welcome to Too Much. Happy New Year. Today we are doing another career episode. I have a lot of fun topics to explore, but today I wanted to focus on what it is to be a creative and how to build a working creative life. I want you all to know it took me a long time to take a leap to be a full-time creative. I had a lot more guts to be a tech entrepreneur than I did to jump into my creative dreams. I was scared. It took having a DJ career that built over time. And then when my company shut down, when it failed, I was forced to reassess a lot of things and I had to start over. And it was scary because I was 33. I'd spent my 20s taking these big career swings thinking they were going to pay off. And then I woke up 33, starting over. All my money had gone into my company and it rattled me. It rattled me on a lot of levels, but it also asked some really tough questions that were really powerful to manifest this next chapter of my life. It forced me to relinquish societal expectation. I was not where I thought I'd be at 33. I was so far from where I thought I'd be. And starting over means letting go, means saying I have to accept where I am. Because that's just the truth of the matter. This is where I am. There's nothing I can do to change what has just happened. So the relinquishing of timelines was not just professionally, this idea that I wasn't going to be where I thought I was going to be at a certain age. All my friends were buying houses, getting married, having kids, and I had none of those boxes checked, still don't. And that ability to say, my life is happening on the timeline that's right for me, and I have to trust the process, and I have to trust the journey. And it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. It's just not on the same timeline. And I had some anger about that because I spent my college years interning. I started working full-time my senior year. I was really so hyper-focused on my career that I let other things like dating fall to the wayside. I prioritized it less. It's not that that's a bad thing. It's just that I felt a lot of my friends who had these really robust college experiences where they weren't working all the time, where they just had a lot of dating experiences. I felt like I prioritized work. And so then to wake up in your early 30s and all those friends that had not prioritized work, all of a sudden were doing really well professionally. I felt like, how could I have been so ahead only to be so far left behind? And that took a lot of therapy and time to just understand that I had to let go of this expectation I had created for myself, because maybe something more amazing, bigger and better is brewing for me. And I have to accept and trust where I am and trust the process. And so that ability to relinquish the timeline also allowed me to go all in on my creative dreams, because I stopped obsessing about checking these boxes. If I was still obsessing about checking these boxes, I probably would have gone back into corporate America, been miserable, and had enough money to check those boxes or, do the traditional things. And instead, when I was asked those hard questions, when I shut down my company, the focus became, how do I live a life that's going to make me happy? And what is the thing that I have suppressed? And for me, that was performing. That was speaking. I had dabbled a little bit. DJing obviously was a piece of that. But when 2019, when I started speaking at conferences, it was like reclaiming a part of myself that I had shut off. I had grown up acting in musical theater, plays. I thought I wanted to be an actor. And so I had been very comfortable on stages my whole life. And then to step back on the stage in a different context, talking about business and social justice issues that matter to me, I reclaimed that part of myself. I still think of public speaking as a version of performing as I do this podcast. There's an element of being seen and being visible and hopefully working with you and your attention to do something powerful. And so there had been dribbles of it, but it wasn't until my company went under that I really was like, you have been neglecting this part of yourself because you're afraid you can't hack it. You're afraid that you're not going to make enough money as a performer, as a creative, because that was stigmatized in my family narrative. My family's they're not artists, they're not creative, they're business tech people. They're very creative in their own ways, but none of them have pursued creative paths. And so I felt sort of like the outsider. And so part of my tech startup was this ability to, or work as a TV producer, was a way to be in creative fields without harboring the risk of putting myself out there to fail. And so after having a failure, I built this company. I was like, there's no way this is going to fail. And after that failed, I've now experienced failure. It sucked, but it didn't break me. It grew me. It pushed me. It got me here. So now I look at it a little bit differently. I'm less scared of failure. And so I was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to wake up at 70 and say, you never went for the thing that you really wanted to do? And so I did. I decided at 33, I'm going to start over. I'm going to nourish the parts of myself that have been undernourished, and I'm going to choose to live the path that lights me up the most. Now, when you first start a creative path, there's a lot of conflicting feedback around this. So I recently guest spoke at a course at my alma mater, and one of the girls asked this question. One of the women in this class asked, I'm an actor, but I've been working in tech, interning in tech. So when people look at my resume, they often say, well, do you want to be in tech or do you want to be an actor? She's like, do I need to go all in on acting for people to take me seriously? And I said, no. Hell no. There's a lot of rhetoric and feedback that you are not serious about your dreams, whether it's building a company or being a creative, if you don't go all in. But going all in, the thing we're not saying is that to go all in, you need to have financial ability to go all in. You need to have someone that is paying your bills to go all in, because not everyone can afford to go to auditions all day long or build a podcast. Like, some of us need to have day jobs and work on our creative jobs on the side. And that's how DJing worked for me. For a long time, DJing was a side hustle, a hobby to my main career. And then it wasn't until I started my company that I started to take it more seriously, because I was like, oh, I can make money doing this, and I have to, because I don't have a full-time job anymore. I'm building this company. The beginning of this shift meant I was taking freelance jobs. So I was doing gig-to-gig jobs that would pay enough money that I could do one job and then sit for a month and work on my creative stuff. And that's a very okay path to take. But also, if you want a salary and the financial security and you want to work on your creative dreams on the weekends or at nights, go for it. If anyone tells you you're not serious, they're wrong. Fuck them. Like, truly, that is such a privileged response. And we're all going to get where we're going to go on whatever timeline. And as long as you take your dreams seriously, as long as you are dedicated to them, as long as you are working every day towards that creative dream, you're good. It's different to say I want to do something and not take action towards it. Or maybe you're like, okay, this job is really stressing me out. I don't have time. I don't have the bandwidth or the space to be creative. That's also fair. So when you think about that, you have to think about, what is a job that I'm going to enjoy enough, that is not going to drain me, that is either like energetically neutral or energetically positive, that is going to pay my bills, that allows me to have creative space. And that's how I approached my life when I became a working creative. I said, what is energetically neutral? So energetically neutral means it pays me money and it takes nothing from me. I don't get anything from it. I don't lose anything from it. It just is. It's a check and it gets me through. Energetically positive, like DJing, for example, gives me something. It's joyful for me. That's the like sweet spot of where I want to earn money. Energetically negative means it takes from me. And there are some freelance jobs I've taken that took from me. And I said, I can't do that again because that takes from me. And when it takes from me, it changes my mental health. It makes me more low vibration. I am less likely to be creatively generative when I feel depleted by the work. So the work can be neutral or joyful. And that was the barometer I used for all my freelance jobs. And so your salaried job can look like that. But I don't think you ever have to apologize for not going all in. You will go all in when the time is right for you. It took me to my early 30s to have the guts to go all in because financial security was very important to me. And my creative life and freelance life got to a place where I knew I could make enough money not working every day, doing these different freelance jobs that would be enough for me to sustain my life and be mostly a full-time creative. And so you do what's right for you. Everyone has a different way of feeling comfortable in that. We do live in this 3D world where we have to pay bills. And so whatever your threshold or risk tolerance is, follow that. Some people are very comfortable being starving artists. I admire, I respect that. I was not built that way. I like nice things. I like traveling. These are just the realities of my personality. I deeply admire people that are nomadic, that don't have a lot of possessions. I am not that person, so I knew that. So I had to build a creative container that was going to allow me to not be then resentful of that path. Now, that doesn't mean there haven't been financially challenging times. You go to my Substack and read about some of them. There have been really challenging moments, but that's also a choice I made. To be a freelance creative means there's a little less stability. So getting comfortable with uncertainty and lack of stability is something I'm still learning. But we have to also understand that there are, I don't want to say consequences, it's not the right word because that's not fair, but trade-offs to choosing to be a creative in a capitalist culture that does not really value creativity in the same way that we value more traditional business and technology jobs. So know that this is a life you have to fight for. It is not something that is ever guaranteed. It is something that is a practice and a process and a discipline. And I think I wrote about this on my Substack, but Twyla Tharp, who's a longtime choreographer, wrote this book, The Creative Habit, which I didn't know at the time when I read it. I loved it, but I didn't know at the time what a Bible it was going to become for me, because she says so many true things about the creative process, which is that it is a discipline. You have to work at it and you have to do it all the time and make it a habit and make it a rhythm of your life. That is what being a creative is. It is the heartbeat of your entire life. And within that lifespan, there will be some really glorious wins and some really spectacular failures. And you have to get comfortable with that, because being a creative is inherently trying new things. It's being risky. It's putting yourself up for criticism and rejection. And that is never fun, but it is part of what being visible and taking creative risks mean. It means that you probably won't be liked by everybody. Some people are really going to hate what you do. They're going to pan what you do. And Twyla Tharp talked about some of her choreography pieces that were just failures. And sometimes it's like the timing's not right, or the team's not right, or there's all these other variables that contribute to why something doesn't work. Our job isn't to care about whether it works. Our job is just to answer the call. And so as a working creative, your job is to say, what am I feeling pulled by? I have to make it, and I don't get to decide how it's received. That part is beyond me. That's up to the universe. My only job is to answer the call and to make it, and trust it will connect with whoever it is meant to connect with. And that has been hard to live by as someone who has prioritized achievement and has prioritized some external validators as markers of success. I still work through this idea that it really doesn't matter the scale of reach if it reaches one person and makes a difference, or if it connects with one person, or if I just answered the call. And I'm still working on that. I still am working on this idea of relinquishing from outcome. I've gotten a lot better, but I do really care about reach and impact. So it's constantly walking this tightrope of wanting to feel like what you're doing matters without getting too caught up in the hoopla of followers or subscribers or whatever the heck we're all doing here in 2026. One of the things I also want to talk about is we all have limiting beliefs that hold us back in our life. And so Amina Zamani, who was on the podcast teaching us how to regulate our nervous system, that this is at the core of her work, is changing our belief systems about ourselves so we can step into the fullest versions of ourselves. I suggest you listen to her. She's a fantastic speaker and practitioner in this arena. And one of the limiting beliefs I've had for a lot of my life was that if I was just more resourced if I had more funding or if I had this and that, then my work would do better. And the reality is, sure, that might be true. There's plenty of people I know that are hosting podcasts, writing books, that are spending a ton of money pushing that content. And it does work. They do grow a following. But I also believe that if we use that as an excuse, or if I had more followers, if I had more money, then it would be X. It's just a fallacy. It's a delay. We're delaying our own success. The reality is, being constrained creates some of the greatest creative ideas ever in the history of time. Constraints are powerful. And instead of rejecting my own personal constraints, I have learned to look at them as fun. So part of what I'm working on right now is I have to trust that my creativity, that my message will be enough, and that through enough experimentation, this will work. I don't know if it's going to work to the scale I'd like it to work, but I can't keep holding myself back by saying, oh, if this person's spending 20 grand a month advertising their podcast, if I could do that, then X. That's not the situation. I don't have that kind of money to spend every month. So how do we view it as an experiment and a process? And to be honest, holding it lightly and viewing it as fun and as an experiment, I'm having way more fun than when I've done things in the past where I'm like, it has to be this way, and I've gone really hard and I just held it too tight. Like it took the fun out of it. Now it's this place of like, failure is an option. So when failure is an option, who cares? We just try shit. We try shit. We see what works. This career series we're doing is an experiment, is one of these experiments in the container of the podcast. Is this resonating? Do you guys like this? Is this helpful? I feel like, as someone who didn't have transparency into the creative process or how to build a creative life, I'm trying to create transparency for you as I'm doing it, and with a lot of the people I know that are doing it really fucking well. So one of the things I want to talk about is that creativity and creative people, we all have our own process. And as we've learned on this podcast, walking is a non-negotiable. Walking is a beautiful way to create space in the creative process and to open ourselves up to new stimuli and ideas, and just really take that time to wipe our brain to allow newness to form. So beyond walking, how do you structure your time? Now, the one thing I will say is I am not a procrastinator. I am a highly disciplined creative. In fact, I'm doing something now, just map my brain as to why I am so, they call it association. Like if I say I'm going to do something, I do it, and I do it in that moment. I am not a procrastinator. So my days in my schedule are time blocked by podcast recording. I have to read this book to interview this person. I have to write my Substack. I'm working on my book. I have this meeting, and I time block my life, and I take notes along the week around ideas I need to share with my team, when to post these clips, when this gig is happening, how to prepare my set for this gig. And so I am rigorous, and I work very full days, and I time block my days in ways that make sense for me. And that is what I love about being a working creative, is that I have the freedom to structure my days how I see fit. So on Fridays or Saturday mornings, I tend to prep my set for whatever gig I have going on that week, or if it's a bigger gig, I do it the week before. But then maybe that day is about music. Maybe that day is about New Music Friday. I'm listening to a bunch of music to see what I want to add to my set. I am going on some of these platforms that have remixes for DJs, and I'm exploring that. And then maybe Friday becomes music day. But then Monday through Thursday is podcast writing, business, Denise, new endeavors. And so I can structure it how I want to structure it, but I time block my days and I treat them very seriously. That doesn't mean there's not, walking is important to me. So hiking is important to me. I do that a couple times a week. Those are my meetings. I try and do two things at once, where it's like, let's have a business catch up and hike and walk, so we can do those two things at the same time. I try and listen to podcasts in my car so I can learn and take advantage of that time that I have for finding new guests or researching guests. I actively time block, and I treat every creative thing that I do as a full-time job. And I think that's really important for people that are a little bit more sporadic about it. is you just make it non-negotiable. I treat it as if I treat my days as my future. Like I'm breathing into the life I want to live. And I want my life to get busier, and I want my life to be creating more and more impact. So I treat it that way because I'm telling the universe, this is the life I want, and this is the life I'm going to continue to want. I don't want to have to do a job that's not going to make me happy. I don't want to have less freedom over my time. I want to be able to create this world I'm building. And so every day is one step towards that. And also, I personally believe the universe responds to what we do. So if we're saying, I want a different life and I'm taking the steps towards it, the universe will respond to that. So I am showing them I'm serious. I'm really fucking serious. I want to, in a year, be on a conference stage every month speaking. I want to have this podcast grow. I want my Substack to grow. I want my book proposal to be done and sold, honey. Like I have all these things, these really big things I'm trying to do. And so they take time. All good things take time. Real things take time. That's fine. But every day is my commitment to my dreams and to my truth. And so if you're waffling on your creativity and your time, whatever your time is, if you have a full-time job and you're working on the weekends, working at night, just treat it like a discipline. Whatever the rhythm is, you're creating your own rhythm. If it's 2 nights a week you're working on it, that's fine. You just have to commit to it. It can't be something that you're checking in and checking out of. Being a creative is disciplined, and it's the same thing as any other sort of job you do. You have to let yourself commit to it. And so let's just peel back for a second. So as a writer, when I write things, I'll write my first draft and then I take space from it and I come back to it. So I work on other things when I'm not working on the writing, because I find having space from the writing helps me see the writing more clearly. Having space helps me have more interesting generative thought. So it's not like going at one thing and making sure it's done. It's like I have plenty of time between when things are done. The things tell me when they're done. So I have a piece I've been writing about modern masculinity for most of the past year. It's not done because I'm not ready for it to be done. I still have things I want to add to it. I've been finding new sources to add to it. That's okay. It's something that I'm continually working on. That is not necessarily checking the box tomorrow, because when you're creative, you hopefully have many ideas and many projects, and you feed a little bit of life into them a little bit at a time. And then some things are ready sooner than other things. And so you're juggling a lot at once. And that's why being disciplined and having time blocks and a calendar will help you more efficiently follow your creative dreams, because you're making it a system and you're building the infrastructure. It's because the reality is, say what you're doing starts to really connect. Well, then you need infrastructure, because then you're going to need help. And how do you have help if you don't have infrastructure for your own creative business? And that is what is very undervalued by a lot of artists, is they tend to outsource. Oh, my lawyer will help, my manager will help, my agent will help. Yes, they will help. But I think you being edified in your business makes you a better creative, because people have less ability to take advantage of you when you understand your own container and what you're trying to do. And you need to build that infrastructure for yourself so you can properly be the CEO of your life. So when you have employees, or when you're telling your lawyer and manager what to do, how to advocate for you, it's because you have an understanding of the world you're trying to build, and every day you've been working towards it. I can't express enough that in 2026, unfortunately, being an artist is also being a CEO. It's being a business owner. Between all the things you have to do to market yourself now as a creator, like you have to be a CEO. So creating that daily infrastructure allows you, with less of a learning curve and more ease, to step into the next chapter of your creative dreams, because you've already built the system that will allow you now to receive more help, more support, and it won't be as hard for you to relinquish control, because you're going to be so excited, because you're like, oh, I'm doing all this stuff all day, every day. It's like so intense. To have help becomes a gift. You can delegate more easily. You have more relief, because you know that's how this thing is going to grow. And there's still some pain in relinquishing control, especially when you're a perfectionist creative. But having this time-blocked, scheduled daily discipline at least allows you to see where other people can fit into the framework, that if you don't treat it that way, you don't really know how to build the next step. So if we have questions on creative time blocking or how to build this more effectively, I'm happy to answer them. But I just wanted to give people an idea of what it is to be a working creative right now, how it feels, the strategies, the problems. I'm open to digging in deeper or doing another episode about this, but I just wanted to share this today. We'll be back for more career episodes of tidbits that are helpful that I wish people had told me. As always, we'll see you every Monday. New episode here on Too Much. Check out the Substack. If you love the Substack, it's $5 a month. And it's frameworks for the future, spiritual musings, lessons I've learned. But really, it's also a way to help me fund my independent creative life. And I'm so grateful for any of you that participate and support that. It is one of the challenges in this world is figuring out how to build that life. And so the Substack is one way that I can do that. And so when you support that, it really supports us and allows us to do so much more, allows me to have more time to do more deep work, research work to share with you on the pod or the sub. And also gives me time to work on my book proposal. I appreciate all of you. Thank you for tuning in. Y'all are the best. I will see you on Monday.